Hey guys, welcome. This is Restoration Night, and we are going to be having these the first Tuesday of every month, unless otherwise noted. There may be a holiday or something that comes up. But welcome. I'm Dr. Bradley. I am the owner and chiropractor at Live Free Chiropractic here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And this being the first restoration night, I just want to welcome you. I'm so glad to have you. The whole reason for creating this webinar, this virtual meetup space, is so that we can have real talk about health. And this is a safe environment to have that discussion. It's just you and me and everybody else that's here seeking knowledge and understanding. And what would life be if we didn't have knowledge and understanding, right? It's critical, especially today. We're living in a post, dare I say, COVID world, so to speak. And one thing that I have recognized and witnessed is, and I hear this as people asking, like, where do we go? There's so much confusion out there. There's been so much trust that's been violated. It's been going on for longer than 2020 for sure, right? And I'll plan on covering some of that and how we got to where we are today with our nation and around the world. So a little bit about me. I am a chiropractor. I graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa in 2008. So I've been practicing since, it's been 18 years now. And truly love what I do. Love the community that has been built and that we serve. We take care of the best people in Wilmington. And now that we're starting to do these virtual meetings, I believe that we are meeting with the best people around. Welcome. In 2020, that was the turning point for me, or shall I say, true expansion of seeking knowledge on metabolic health, which is why we're here today. I've been to several conferences, met some pretty amazing leaders in the health freedom movement, and I just returned this weekend from an amazing event in Gatlinburg called Meatstock 2026. It was the third time they've hosted this, and they have seen some exponential growth since launching just 3 years ago with 35 people in attendance. Isn't that crazy? Last year they had 400, and this year there was 1,600 people in attendance. And what an amazing community it was. It is. There's no hierarchy of order or anything within it. Everybody's so open and engaging and free to have conversations with each other, even the speakers and leadership. It was truly amazing. And I'd say just a couple quick notes about Meatstock. If you've never been, I encourage you to go. The next one will be the first weekend in May next year, 2027, in Nashville, North Carolina, at the Gaylord. And even if you don't do a carnivore way of living, I'd still encourage you to go, because the information that you receive on health, true health, is top tier, truly fascinating. I learned a ton from many of the speakers, and many of them I have heard several times already. And there were several that I haven't yet, but man, talk about a united force moving to take back the health of not only the nation, but the world with the movements that are going on. I mean, there was people from all over. I roomed with some men, and one of my roommates was from China. Hey, Jack, if you're listening, pleasure to have met you, brother. But anyway, on to business. So how did we get here? Well, we have to go back to the early 1900s on how our healthcare system became what it is today, right? And if you've known me, or if you come to the office, you hear me say it all the time. We don't have a healthcare system. We don't have many people. They call it healthcare, right? It's not healthcare. It's sick care. We have insurance that covers us when we have something going on. And if we get in a crisis, that insurance will cover us, and we pay these crazy premiums, all this stuff, but it really is only there if we have a problem. And they're not really doing, the system does not do any educating or guidance into how to stay healthy, right? That's where the true health insurance lies, which is the space that I am in. Being a chiropractor and a functional practitioner, the knowledge and understanding I seek is to learn and to share and teach. How do we stay healthy in a toxic environment? Because the environment is definitely toxic, right? And so it all starts back in the early 90s. And there's a man named Abraham Flexner who did a commissioned audit of all the medical schools in the country. And he was commissioned by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegies to run this audit in 1910. Okay. And it took about 20 years, and around 60% of the medical schools closed, right? So 162 medical schools in 1910, and 20 years later, there's roughly 60 remaining. Those that were more involved with the physics of health and nutrition and botany and topics of that nature were forced to shut down. And all that was left was the chemistry, those that would continue on with the petrochemical industrial complex, which is the system that we're under today in allopathic medicine, the titles MD and all of that. And I do want to disclose up front that any of the information that I share is in no way meant to strike at any personal medical doctor, nurse, pharmacist, or anything. I truly believe that just as in any profession, they got into their profession because they truly want to help people. And so they sought knowledge and understanding, and they went to medical school and got the knowledge and understanding from a medical school to do what they do. And I'm not either anti-medicine. I think there's a time and place to go to the medical doctor. But I do believe that we overutilize and try to manage our health with a system that isn't designed at all to keep you healthy. And I believe that as we walk through this today, you'll see that. Starting off, Graham Flexner was commissioned to do a study in 1910. 20 years later, 60% of the medical schools are closed. There's about 60 remaining, and those are only the allopathic schools. Not only, but there was a few that survived, like Palmer Chiropractic and other schools that would pop up, but they would be heavily, heavily, heavily suppressed, just like our social media feeds. And herein lies how it all happened. And then moving on, the USDA was established. The FDA was established, and that the person who established the FDA was associated with the Kellogg's Corporation. Fast forward to the 60s, and Senator McGovern from the state of North Dakota started a committee on nutrition for the impoverished and elderly. And from there, we started to see all the lobby money pour in. And what I would say was probably an altruistic effort got corrupted by dollars from big business, right? Like sugar industry, even big meat, big pharma, obviously, and all of that. But from that committee moving forward until the late 70s, early 80s was the establishment of the food pyramid. And we all know the food pyramid just got switched here about, a couple months ago. It didn't just get switched, it got turned upside down. I don't believe it's perfect, but I think it's much, much better than what it used to be. So here we are today, eating grains, lots of grains and processed foods. And we live under a healthcare system that provides medications to eliminate symptoms. But the one thing they're not doing is addressing the cause. And that's just because they weren't educated in what health is. They're educated in how to properly administer pharmaceutical medications and do surgeries and other invasive things like injections and whatnot. But I thank the Lord for the practitioners out there, even medical doctors who have broken free from the system and are truly, truly dedicated to restoring health. Some examples of those people would be like Ken Berry. He's a medical doctor, family practitioner, truly getting people healthy. Dr. Philip Ovadia down in Florida, check him out. He is the iFix Hearts doctor. He's a cardiac surgeon. He's been a cardiac surgeon for decades, and his work is impassioned to keep people off of his table. He's dedicated to health. I highly recommend him. Dr. Sean O'Mara, who is an amazing MD, really focused on performance and has a special interest in the microbiome and its impact on overall health. He's amazing. Dr. Anthony Chafee is a neurosurgeon, truly dedicated to the health of the individual and does everything that he can to get people off medications. Dr. Boz is another doctor that you can check out. She's amazing. And all these doctors understand one thing, that medication wasn't meant to be prescribed for life, right? Medication, I would imagine, would be needed to transition to a healthier state, right? So while we're correcting the cause of the problem, maybe there's a medication that, if you're in a crisis situation, can help alleviate some of that extra stress on the body. I'm just a chiropractor, so I don't prescribe medication. And anyway, on to business. So that's kind of the history of what got us here. It all began with Abraham Flexner and the Flexner Report, with the transition of healthcare, the centralization of healthcare in our nation. And I'm grateful for the nation we're in so that we can have, and we do have, alternatives. And dare I say that those alternatives should be more mainstream because they're more naturally based on nature, like nutrition from food, like sound, like light, like mobility and physics. That's what you should seek to be healthy, not chemistry. And my thoughts on that are, you cannot fix a crumbling structure, a physical structure, as in your body, with chemistry. You can't put chemistry in a home that's going to fortify the walls. It has to be physics, right? Chemistry can buy you time, but it's not going to restore. And that's what we're all about here. We're hosting Restoration Night. So I wanted to give a little bit of information from the weekend that I had at Meatstock, and I thought, what a perfect topic. We'll just talk about toxicity. We don't even have to talk about carbs, fat, and protein. Stay away from the macros, and let's just look at the most popular health diet that is oftentimes prescribed by medical doctors, other practitioners too. So many people have been encouraged to utilize this to get healthy, getting off the ultra processed foods and whatnot. And that is the Mediterranean diet. Has anybody heard of the Mediterranean diet? Give me a like, put it in the comments. Yes, I've heard of the Mediterranean diet. My eyes were opened even wider this weekend after learning about the toxicity in our food supply. And that's what made me want to do this video, this webinar on the Mediterranean diet. Our crops are sprayed with poisons, herbicides, pesticides, and many rounds of glyphosate, right? Whether it's grains, vegetables, fruits, the conventional way is riddled with toxic substances that are made in labs. And it's all about the shelf life. The longer that we can keep produce looking good in the grocery store, the better, right? And if we can keep other living things from wanting to eat it, we call that a good thing. But we don't realize the residue on that and how it actually absorbs into the flesh of the produce, and we then ingest it. So I've never heard of any species thinking that they can put poison on something to keep another species away from it and deem it healthy to consume themselves. It's pretty wild when you really stop and consider. And so what I did was I brought receipts tonight. I thought we'd go through the Mediterranean diet, and I'm going to share my screen. And this is from a PDF that I'm happy to give you. Just merely drop a comment below and say industrial sediment, and I'll be happy to send that over to you. It's a 17-page PDF file that documents the Mediterranean diet, the common poisons that they put on our crops, the organs they impact, and the levels of them. And it also presents that next to a Lion's Kitchen protocol, Lion's Kitchen diet, which is a clinical carnivore way of eating, and the same. So we'll compare both of them, and we're going to look at not just the toxicity, but the bioavailability of the nutrients within them. Okay, so let me share my screen here and pull it up. Boom, there we go. The Industrial Sediment Report. This is the Mediterranean diet versus the Lion's Kitchen protocol. And looking at this here, as we come up to it, what this healthy diet truly delivers. So this diet is universally recommended as the gold standard for healthy eating. And what they don't tell you is about everything that's in it. But the data's out there, and I'll share some resources with you that will point you in the right directions, and peer-reviewed research that will show the way for you. But the foundation, number one, the foundation of the Mediterranean diet is grains, beans, fruits, vegetables, nuts, olive oil, avocado oil, wine, seafood, and low-fat proteins like chicken breasts and things like that, right? Um, it's promoted as heart healthy and anti-inflammatory and evidence-based. And I'm actually going to show you the evidence that I'm going to show you about the Mediterranean diet is from the evidence-based system that they declare it to be heart healthy and anti-inflammatory for. So pretty remarkable. The one thing it does do as far as chemistry goes is it's a multi-vector, multi-layered toxin delivery system. So it's not just like you're getting one, as we look through these, you're not just getting one toxin, you're getting several. There's also natural occurring anti-nutrients within crops, within vegetables and fruits that are there for its protection. So it can survive and ward off predators. But we're going to be going over a lot of a lot of that anti-nutrients and also the toxins that man puts on them, ultimately to make an extra buck. So just getting started here, there's a whole big list of toxins that are present. Some of these are natural, some of these are added on. But glyphosate. Now, certainly we've all heard of glyphosate, I hope. Many people with what they call gluten sensitivity avoid glyphosate. You know, glyphosate was an antibacterial, is actually an antibiotic used way early in the day, and they discovered that they could protect grains and later other crops from predators like insects and whatnot by spraying it on there. And they actually use this also about 2 weeks before harvest to speed up the drying process of a lot of these crops. So 2 weeks before they're harvesting these crops, you're getting another dose of glyphosate. Think about the intensity of what that would be like. It's crazy. Oxalates are natural occurring anti-nutrients found in many foods, and we'll go over some of those foods here today. And also this list will highlight some of the major toxins here and how they impact the organs. But aflatoxin B1, zearalenone, cadmium, lead, methylmercury, which is mercury, the cocktails, the pesticide cocktails, mixing a bunch of things together. And that's not even regulated in any capacity, this can lead to enhanced exponential toxicity. Lectins, phytates, and acrylamides. So 14 different categories of toxins, 6 with no safe level. So roughly 40% of these have no safe level or any established limit. It's pretty wild, isn't it? As we move on by what organs are impacted, the brain and nervous system, methylmercury, lead, organophosphates, toxoplasma gondii, glyphosates. Now, looking at these lists here, I want you to notice there's some that repeat pretty frequently. Glyphosate is one of them, just as a hint, but there's another one that I'm going to quiz you on at the end here. Thyroid gland, oxalate crystals deposit directly into thyroid tissue. Cadmium, glyphosate again. The cardiovascular system, oxalates, arsenic, mercury. Liver, just take a look. The gut microbiome, boom, big 2. Kidneys, oxalates are the number one cause of kidney stones. As far as chelation, so what are these nutrients? What are these? These are anti-nutrients. So they're going to interfere with your absorption of the actual nutrients in the crop that you're consuming. So let's take, for example, spinach, really high in oxalates. And oxalic acid binds to calcium. I don't know if you've heard, but spinach has high levels of calcium in it, but your body doesn't absorb. It's actually estimated at 5% or less that you actually absorb from it. Phytate chelation, which is found in whole grains, legumes, and nuts, binds to calcium, zinc, and calcium, zinc, and iron. If you look up here, oxalates bind to calcium, magnesium, zinc, and iron. You'll see magnesium, zinc, and iron for glyphosate chelation. Also inhibiting the CYP450 liver processing, which is essential for cholesterol. Intestinal walls by lectins, they can cause inflammatory bowel problems. Cadmium. So when you're in a mineral deficit, like with calcium, magnesium, and even iron, some of the conditions that you might have or see, some of the problems you might have would be osteopenia, aka osteoporosis, chronic fatigue or immune suppression. So maybe a hypersensitivity to pollen because of this. There is no such thing as pollen season. Pollen wasn't intended to be irritating to the human being. God wouldn't do that. It's kind of like the sun wouldn't make the God wouldn't make the sun to be detrimental to human life. Rather, it's the sunscreen that we put on our body and the food we eat that plays around with how well we actually can utilize the sun for nutrients. Absorption gap, calcium, like I said, about less than 5%. When you are on a Lion's Kitchen or a carnivore diet, calcium absorption 65%. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Iron is nearly double on a carnivore diet versus the Mediterranean diet. Zinc, about half to 80% of all the zinc that you get from fruits and vegetables don't even make it through into your body to be utilized. It's much different when you eat ruminant meat. Vitamin A, poor absorption, maximum absorption with the Lion's Kitchen. B12, there is none, and that is a required B vitamin, but you do get plenty of it with ruminant meat. The iron illusion, just check this out. This is how iron is stripped away from your body with spinach. So you eat a spinach salad with some lentils. You have oxalate chelation, which will bind to iron, phytate chelation, glyphosate chelation, non-heme absorption rate, because this is not bioavailable iron that's present in spinach and lentils. Over here, there is no non-heme fraction because the iron that's available in fatty red meat or red meat in general is 15 to 35%, 100% bioavailable. So you eat it and it's in your body and can be utilized. It doesn't have to be converted. There's no oxalates, no phytates, no glyphosates. Look at this. The verdict. A ribeye delivers less iron on paper, but 30 to 30 times more iron to the blood. So there's less iron present in red meat, but your body will absorb much more of that quantity and it's ready to go. Whereas spinach is really high in iron, but that iron is chelated. It's broken down and not usable by the time it gets to your body at only 3%, at only less than 3%, which is, when you look at the carnivore diet, it's at least 3 times that, upwards of 30 times that right here. Isn't that amazing? All with just red meat. Calcium the same on down. Let's just look at a typical lunch with the Mediterranean diet and the load of toxicity that you'll be consuming. Eating a whole wheat pasta, a spinach salad with some almonds and beets, maybe have a glass of wine and some dark chocolate. 12 distinct toxins within it. Isn't that crazy? About 200 to 500 plus milligrams of oxalates, which is 10 times the clinical safe limit. 10 times the clinical safe limit in one meal. Isn't that crazy? 3 to 5 types of mycotoxins, cadmium and lead from the greens, the chocolate, and the wine, 5 to 15 different individual pesticides, and alcohol, which is hepatotoxic, right? Wow. The Lion's Kitchen, a carnivore diet. And when I say carnivore diet, I'm referring to grass-finished steak and water. and salt. The salt that I use is from Salter, good clean salt from Norway. Um, Zero, near zero across all 14 categories for toxicity. No anti-nutrients. Bioavailable iron, B12, zinc, retinol, K2, creatine, and carnosine, all absorbed without interference. Isn't that amazing? The net mineral test, you can look at this, and why beef is clean and wheat is not. Anyway, the Mediterranean diet, I hope I've shined a little bit of light on you. I will gladly send you this document to review for yourself. Remember just to put industrial sediment in the comments below, and I will happily send that to you. But wrapping up here, that's all I really wanted to share, was just showing what is the healthy standard diet, and all the toxins that you're consuming with that wreak havoc on your nervous system, your brain, your peripheral nerves, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your sexual reproductive organs, all of that. Certainly you're getting some nutrients and maybe you've gotten some results with it, but if you truly want to be healthy, you will end up plateauing at some point, and your body does a good job at trying to keep up with processing and keeping things from coming to the surface as far as symptoms are concerned. And that's the one thing I don't want for you, is to have some crisis come out of nowhere, which oftentimes happens. I'm sure we've heard those stories. But if you are seeking more information, you can always join the Path to Freedom. That'll give you a little deeper education into how we got here, and also kind of the physics and the fuel of health. Module 1 is released. There'll be 4 more modules released here in the next couple weeks. But come on in. I got a lot of information that I released about meat stock, and it's a great community. It's a private community. It's a safe community, and I hope you'll join me in there. So I do have to ask you to like and subscribe, if you will. This is the YouTube channel for the office Live Free Chiropractic. We're located in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm Dr. Bradley, and I just want to thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you have an amazing day. Be blessed and praise the Lord. Amen.